Hello, I'm Rachel Ford with Derby City News, and today we have with us Dr. Rand Paul. Dr. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
Well, how's the campaign going? What are people saying to you?
Very good. I've been all over around Kentucky maybe once and then maybe once again. And so I've been to a lot of places several times. I guess the main thing I hear as I go around the state is that people are uncertain. People in business are worried that we may be heading towards another recession or that we're not coming out of this recession. And they're uncertain because so many new government regulations are coming down. It makes it hard for businesses to predict for the future, for them to make decisions, because, you know, the health care bill, 2,500 pages, but maybe 5,000 more pages of regulations. The financial service bill, more regulations on banks. And so businesses are uncertain about what to do because government's growing so large.
You often discuss national debt. I went to your website, and that was one of the key issues that I believe it was at the top of your issues. It seems that the American people have a tendency to look at dealing with the national debt as an issue that we can just continue to put off. Perhaps this is because right now we have a struggling economy. People have other priorities like where is my next meal going to come from? Where am I going to have a job tomorrow? Et cetera, et cetera. Could you explain how the national debt not only impacts future generations, but impacts the current generation as well?
Yeah, I think they're interrelated. I tell people that the top three issues of the Tea Party are the debt, the debt, the debt. So it does concern me, and it is, I think, the number one issue facing the country. But also people tell you they're concerned about jobs and employment. But I think they're interrelated because I think if government is soaking up so much money, it's taking that money from where it could be used in the private marketplace to create jobs. And that's what's happening. There's competition between government and the private marketplace. And right now government's winning all that money. But government doesn't spend money very wisely. And government can't really create useful jobs. Private individuals do, men and women in the marketplace. So we need to try to keep that money there. And people do talk a lot about how the debt will be paid for by our kids and our grandkids, but I think it is more imminent than that. I think you're right that it affects the job outlook. If you're graduating from college, it's imminent to you, the job market. And I think that the debt and government soaking up so much money competes with that job market, and it's making it hard on people who are getting out of high school and going to work or getting out of college and going to work, because the debt is, and that money that has to finance the debt is competing with money that could be here in Kentucky creating jobs.
Okay. Liberals often argue, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of this before, that the concept of small government means sacrificing the well-being of the less fortunate, or that basically rich conservatives just don't care about the common man. Using policies which you would like to implement or see implemented, can you disprove this idea?
All right. Well, I would say that capitalism, which is the absence of big government, is the most humanitarian system known to man. When you think about it, when people are in need in the world, who comes to the rescue? It's America. When there was a disaster in Haiti recently, where did most of the money come from? Private individuals in America donating to help people in Haiti. You don't really hear about Cuba giving very much. Cuba, socialism doesn't work, so they can't create the enormous wealth that we create. Capitalism creates that wealth and can give to people, but capitalism also creates jobs. So under good form of capitalism, you have near perfect employment, which might be 2 or 3% unemployment. If you have that, and you will have unfortunate people, you want a wealthy nation that can take care of them. And a lot of it, some of it will be through a safety net through government, but a lot of it will be through churches and local communities. And I think we need to embrace some of those solutions to some of our social problems.
Okay. That leads me to my next question, which is actually from a liberal friend of mine. Because the hardcore left has been successful at convincing some people that rich conservatives don't care about them, several statements which you have made have been used to support this argument. For example, the statement that you made regarding the use of federal funding for state and local drug enforcement initiatives, in which you are quoted as saying, "I don't think it's a real pressing issue." Can you explain your thoughts when you made this statement?
Right. Well, the interesting thing is it's misquoted, and we've been arguing with the Associated Press for a week now, trying to tell them that it needs to be retracted, because what I said is, I don't think it's a pressing issue, the jurisdiction of whether federal government takes care of the drug problem or local takes care of it. In fact, I think there are arguments to be made for the local government taking care of it, for churches being involved, and there being a religious backdrop to how we treat drug addiction. Just this week I went over to a group called Teen Challenge over near Madisonville. No federal funds, no state funds, church-oriented drug rehab, and they have an 86% cure rate. If you put people in jail for drug dependency or drug possession, it's a 4% chance that they'll be off of drugs when they leave jail. If you put them in a faith-based rehab, it's 86% chance. So what I'm saying is, let's embrace some local solutions, some innovative solutions, things that do involve church, community, family, and I think that's a better way to do it than sending money to Washington. It gets swished around in the bureaucracy. Some of it comes back, but it's a one-size-fits-all, and every child is different that's on drugs, every person is different. But they misquoted me in the sense that they're trying to portray me as someone who doesn't care about these problems, and I do care about these problems. I'm a physician. I see people who are addicted to drugs. I have teenage kids that I don't want to be on drugs, so it is an important part of what the message we project. But I think we as Republicans have typically favored local solutions. If we talk about education, Republicans will say they would rather have local controlled schools and not federal controlled schools. Same way with a problem like drug addiction. I'd much rather see local control than I would see federal control.
Okay. Well, I spoke with a member of the board of the Louisville Tea Party, and they have endorsed you. And this particular member said, quote, "I would love to know where he stands when it comes to Iran and Israel, especially now that Iran now has more nuclear capabilities and the unmanned drone."
Right. I think that it's not a good idea, obviously, for Iran to have nuclear weapons, and we should do everything we can to try to prevent them from having nuclear weapons. One of the things that Congress has done that I'm supportive of is they have told state pensions, teachers' pensions, government pensions, that they can't invest in businesses that do business in Iran. That's been part of the sanctions that have been passed. They've also said that taxpayer money should not go to finance. For example, we have a lot of taxpayer money or corporate welfare that goes to fund big businesses that do business then in Iran. So it doesn't make any sense in one sense to try to contain them, in the other sense to be subsidizing businesses that do a business that could potentially be used to harm us in some way. So no, I think we do have to do everything we can to possibly contain Iran and keep them from getting nuclear weapons.
Okay. One last question. You've been called a racist, a radical, an extremist, and many other numerous things. It seems to me that there's almost a very intense passion, one way or the other, when it comes to the name Rand Paul. It kind of reminds me of the way people felt about George W. Bush.
Right.
Why do you think this is the case?
Because we're winning. Because we're ahead. I mean, you're also seeing the Tea Party nationally called racist. The NAACP comes out with a statement and says the Tea Party's racist. I tell people the interesting thing is that the Tea Parties that I've been to have been more diverse than any Republican events I've been to. The leadership with the Tea Party Express that I met recently in Washington, the young man that I met with, probably in his mid-30s, African American. I was at the Tea Party here in Louisville. There were probably 10 speakers. 2 of them were African American out of 10. I think I see a great representation of African Americans within our movement. But you remember there was a story a week or 2 ago by these liberal journalists. They called them journalists, and they were blogging about how to spin the story. And when Jeremiah Wright came up, you remember how Jeremiah Wright came up? They said, oh, we can't defend him, and we can't defend President Obama and his relationship, so let's just call someone a racist. And the response was, well, who? And they said, anybody. It doesn't matter. Just call them a racist. They'll spend 3 weeks defending themselves. So they said, how about Karl Rove? How about Fred Barnes? Just some conservative. We'll call them a name, a vile name, and make them then defend themselves. But I take great umbrage at the accusation I'm a person who really believes that the law is colorblind and should be colorblind, and it's insulting for people to say that about me. It's not true. It mischaracterizes who I am. It hurts my feelings. I don't like people to say things about me that are not true. And I think as people get to know me, they'll find that there's not a shred of evidence in that. And it's done by people who are losing the election, who don't want to talk about the things we do talk about. A balanced budget amendment, term limits, that they should read the bills before they vote on them, that they should point to where in the Constitution they get authority for these bills, and that every bill Congress passes should be made applicable to themselves. They shouldn't exempt themselves from bills. That's the Tea Party message, and not one scintilla of it is about racism. But somebody wants to do that because they see we're winning, and that these messages, if you poll a balanced budget amendment or term limits with Democrats, 70-80% of Democrats are for them too. So they can't beat us on the issues, they have to call us names. That's what it is, it's just name calling.
Okay, well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you, I
joining me.
enjoyed
It has been a pleasure, and I really think that you've clarified a lot of things to our viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Dr. Rand Paul and will tune in for more upcoming profiles. Please contact me at derbycitynews.com regarding your ideas on who you think I should talk to next and what you think I should ask them. Once again, from Derby City News, I am Rachel Ford. Thank you for joining me.